Now let's read about the ossicular structure of this cochlea. As here you can see, the cochlea is present in a spiral manner and they are facing, the axis of the cochlea facing towards you, and they are present in a conical manner. Okay, so just imagine that this is the base of cone and the apex lies towards you. So this whole cochlear tongue is present around a bony structure, and that bony structure have the cochlear nerve inside them. Attached with the cochlear nerve, we have the spatial sensory ganglion that is present just below or just present in this bony structure, that is known as modulus. As we know, the cochlear chambers are divided into three chambers: scala vestibulis, scala media and scala tympani, and they are going to turn around a special bony structure that is present on its axis, and inside that bony structure we have this cochlear nerve. Okay, so this is the bony structure or the medial that is present in the middle, and it is just like a conical shape. Okay, this is just like a conical shape, and inside this cone we have the cochlear nerve. From the cochlear nerve or towards the cochlear nerve, the sensation will come from the receptors that are present in the organ of corti, and it is going to meet at the spiral ganglion and then further come towards the cochlear nerve. So this is the cochlear nerve and it is present in the modulus. So this is the cochlear bony structure. This structure, here you can imagine that these tongues is, this is the apical tongue, this is the median tongue, and this is the end part of the cochlear tongue. Okay, so the turn of the cochlea or the spiral process of turning around something. What is that something? Turning around a bony part structure that have inside the cochlear nerve. Okay, so the cochlear nerve present inside the bony structure, what is that known as? That is known as modulus. Okay, so that modulus, around the modulus, the cochlea is going to turn and they will have 2.5 turn. Okay, they are going to turn or they are going to get spiral along the axis of this modulus. This cochlear canal, here you can see this cochlea is going to turn around in this manner till it reaches the apex. Okay, so this is the end turn, this is the median turn, and this is the apical turn. So we have represent this structure with along with its curve. Okay, this turn takes place around the modulus. Inside cochlea, we have scala vestibulis, scala media and scala tympani. On its apex, the scala vestibulis is present, and here the blue shaped structure represents the scala media, and here it represents the scala tympani. Here you can see the structure that represents or that this whole cochlear structure is present in the temporal bone. This is one turn of the cochlea. If we are going to magnify this cochlea, okay, if we are going to magnify this part, then we are going to see the magnified picture of the cochlea. Here I have magnified the structure of the cochlear canal. What you are going to see here, this triangle represents the modulus or the bony socket that is going to have the cochlear nerve, and at the end of this or at the mid of the tongue or the mid of the median or apical tongue, we have a bony structure that is called the spiral limbus. Okay, this conical structure that is attached with the modulus is known as spiral limbus. From this spiral limbus, we have special membrane that encloses the cochlear duct. As I have said, this cochlear canal have the cochlear duct inside, and this cochlear duct is nothing but this scala media that is rich in potassium. Next, this structure represents the cochlear duct. This triangle here you can see is nothing but the cochlear duct, and this is the one turn of the cochlear canal. This modulus is attached with the cochlear canal through this spiral limbus, and this cochlear canal has been divided into three parts. What are they? Scala vestibuli, scala media and scala tympani. The scala media is nothing but the cochlear duct. The cochlear duct has the three walls, and what are they? One is superolateral, that is vestibular membrane. One is inferior, that is the basilar membrane, and one is laterally, that is spiral ligament along with the Striabiscularis cells. So what are the membranes that are going to surround this cochlear duct? On its anterior superior direction, we have the vestibular membrane. The vestibular membrane separates the scala vestibuli and scala media. Then on its inferior part, we have the basilar membrane. The blue line structure here you can see is the basilar membrane. And to its lateral side, we have two structures. One is spiral ligament. Okay, one is spiral ligament, and towards the inner side of this cochlear duct, we have special cells known as Striabiscularis. Okay, so these small cells that here you can see that it lines the lateral wall of the cochlear duct is known as Striabiscularis. What is the function of Striabiscularis? It produces endolymph, and this endolymph is rich in potassium. As we know that scala media or the scala media is otherwise known as cochlear duct is filled with endolymph, and that endolymph is rich in potassium, and this endolymph is produced, this special fluid is produced by these special cells that lines the lateral wall of the cochlear duct, and they are known as Striabiscularis. Over the surface of basilar membrane, we have this organ of corti, or the spiral organ of corti, that is the primary sensory part for sound reception. Okay, so this part over the basilar membrane is known as organ of corti. The organ of corti is made up of, or it constitutes the hair cells or the supporting cells, and that as a whole makes this organ of corti. What are the hair cells and what are the supporting cells? Similarly, these cells are going to, these are the receptors that are going to sense the sound or auditory systems. Okay, these are going to sense the sound. Hair cells or supporting cells, the supporting cells means they are going to support in the process of the receiving the sound. Okay, so what are these cells? They can be Deters, Hansen's and Claudius cells. These cells are present just beside the actual hair cells or the actual receptors that are going to produce or generate the axon potential. So what are the hair cells? What are the different types of hair cells that are present in the cochlear duct? These can be inner hair cells and outer hair cells. Here you can see the inner hair cells and outer hair cells, and in between the inner and outer hair cells we have a small triangle, and it is completely filled with black color. What is that? It is the cochlear canal, or otherwise known as rods or pillar of corti. On the superior part of this cochlear canal, we have a thin lamina or thin layer, that is reticular lamina, that covers over the surface of kinocilium or over the surface of these hair cells. Supporting cells and the hair cells both constitute the organ of corti. The hair cells have the inner hair cells and outer hair cells. These are divided according to the position of the cochlear canal. Okay, so the rods and the pillars of corti is divided according to the outer. On the lateral part of the rods or pillar of corti, we have outer hair cells, and on medial part of this rods or pillars of corti, we have inner hair cells. So what is the distinguishing factors that you should know? These inner hair cells are present in a single row, whereas this at lateral part the outer hair cells are present in 3 or 4 number of rows. Maximum reception or maximum sound reception around 95% takes place at these inner hair cells, whereas 10% of sound reception takes place by these outer hair cells. Next, these inner hair cells are present in a number of 3000 to 4000, whereas the outer hair cells are present in 12,000 number. These hair cells are mostly the columnar cells and they are filled with special fluid that is known as cortilymph. Okay, as we know, this cochlear duct is filled with endolymph and also the endolymph is rich in potassium. But the cortilymph or the lymph that is present in these hair cells, they are not rich in potassium. Why? Because when there will be generation of action potential, the potassium will enter these hair cells for production or for generation of action potential, and that will lead to the production of nerve impulse, and that is going to be transferred through these nerves into the spiral ganglion. Okay, so in the structure here you can see that it is scala vestibuli, it is scala media, it is scala tympani. The cochlear duct is surrounded by three walls. What are they? Vestibular membrane, spiral ligament, along with the Striabiscularis cells, and the inferior wall is made up of basilar membrane. So next, here we have a special lamina that covers the superior parts of these hair cells. And what is that known as? It is known as reticular lamina. The vestibular membrane is otherwise known as Reisner's membrane. Okay, so it is otherwise known as Reisner's membrane. And here we have two structures that you can understand from the middle ear, that the middle ear is associated with the inner ear with two windows. One is oval window and the second one is the round window. Why I have drawn this structure in this modulus? Because when there will be vibration, when there will be mechanical vibration produced in the ear ossicles, then what happens? The footplate of the steps is going to vibrate. Sound wave comes, then the ear ossicles vibrates. There will be production of the mechanical energy, and along with the mechanical energy, the footsteps is going to beat over the surface of this oval window. When there will be a continuous beating of the footplate, then what will happen? The sound waves producing the energy will be changed into the vestibular, into the fluid that is filled with scala vestibuli. What is that fluid? It is known as perilymph. So the perilymph fluid is going to vibrate. So there will be production of fluid vibratory energy in the scala vestibuli. As the scala vestibuli is filled with the perilymph and the perilymph is going to vibrate, what will happen? Along with the perilymph, the vestibular membrane is also going to vibrate. The vibration of vestibular membrane leads to vibration inside the cochlear duct. The cochlear duct is filled with endolymph and there will be more vibrations inside the endolymph. And the endolymph, once there will be vibration of endolymph, similarly the tectorial membrane will also move. The movement of tectorial membrane will lead to the movement of these hair cells, because along with the movement of tectorial membrane, the potassium will try to enter these hair cells, and that will lead to opening of channels that are present in between stereocilia and kinocilia. I am going to explain the exact structure of stereocilia, kinocilia that are present in the hair cell in my next video, where I am going to explain the mechanism of actual sound reception, how the sound is going to be perceived. Okay, then next, what happens when the sound wave will have its action over the fluid that are present in the scala vestibuli? Then what will happen? The fluid will move in this direction, the vibration of the fluid will move in this direction, and it will meet at a point. What is that point? Yes, this point is the apex of this cochlea, that is known as helicotroma. At this place, the perilymph of scala vestibuli and scala tympani meets. So what happens next? That when the vibratory energy or the vibration of the fluid takes place, the fluid that is perilymph will get vibrate, then of course they are going to vibrate in this direction. As here we are going to imagine that there will be presence of the oval window and beating of steps takes place here, and from the oval window the fluid filled perilymph is going to vibrate. That vibration energy is going to transfer through the scala vestibuli and it is going to come at the apex of the cochlea. That apex of the cochlea is known as helicotroma. At the apex of cochlea, the perilymph of the scala vestibuli and scala tympani is going to meet. It means there will be transfer of energy from the scala vestibuli to scala tympani, but the energy transformation will take place in opposite direction. It means that if the sound wave is in the direction towards the helicotroma, then the sound wave will then vibrate, or the fluid will vibrate in a direction opposite to the actual way of vibration. It means that if we are going to see the beating of the footsteps over this oval window in this direction, then of course the perilymph that are present in the scala tympani is going to beat at this round window in the opposite direction. So that is the reason why the tympanic, there is difference between the beating of tympanic membrane or secondary tympanic membrane or secondary round window membrane in opposite phase direction. Next we are going to read about the concept of why the high frequency sound is much more audible in the base of cochlea, whereas low frequency sound is audible at the apex of cochlea. Okay, so try to understand this figure, that this is the basilar membrane and here it is having the helicotroma. Okay, here the diagram is in such a manner that it represents that it is the apex and the apex is positioned in this manner. Why I have drawn in the horizontal view, rather it should be in a vertical way, because it is turning, or it is spiral, it is turning around the modulus. Why I have made this? Because I am going to represent the frequency. What do I mean by frequency? The number of wave per second. If a wave is having higher number of wave in between in 1 second, it means it has high frequency, and if a wave has less number of curve in between 1 second, then it means that it has less frequency. So the stimulation of basal membrane occurs at the frequency, means at the base the frequency, if the frequency of the sound wave is high, then the base is going to be stimulated. If the frequency of the sound wave is medium frequency, then it means the middle part of the cochlear duct is going to be stimulated. It means that the stimulation of basal membrane will take place at the middle part of the cochlea. Okay, and at the apex, this apex will be stimulated when there will be low frequency of sound wave. This occurs because the reason is that short stiff fibers are present more proximal towards the modulus, whereas the property changes as it moves further topward direction. It means the longer floppy fibers are present. The longer floppy fibers are present at the apex, and at the base we have short stiff fibers, and for movement of these top stiff fibers we require high frequency sound wave. Okay, so this is the reason behind why we are going to hear high frequency sound wave at the base, and at the apex we are going to hear the low frequency sound wave. Next, we are going to see the ducts connecting the endolymph. As you know, this whole inner ear have the endolymph that are present in this membranous labyrinth. So this endolymph of the cochlea, vestibule and semicircular canals are interconnected through the passages or the connecting links. What are these connecting ducts? The connecting ducts of sacules with the cochlear duct. here it is the saccule and here it is the cochlear duct. So the connecting link is known as reunions duct. In between utricles with saccules means in between utricle and saccule we have the connecting duct, that is utriculo-saccular duct. Then utricle saccule means along with this utricle saccules we have one more connection with the endolymphatic sac. What is that endolymphatic sac? It is the site where the endolymph is going to be reabsorbed, and it is placed in the dura mater of the posterior pyramidal wall. Exactly behind this vestibular structure, we have the endolymphatic sac, and that is present above this temporal bone and present on the posterior pyramidal wall. Okay, listen, this Striabiscularis cells that were present at the lateral wall of the cochlear duct was responsible for production of the endolymph, whereas the endolymphatic sac that will be present on the posterior wall of the pyramidal wall is responsible for reabsorption of the endolymph. Okay, so the connection between the utricle saccule and duct that is going to arise from this direction is known as endolymphatico-utricosaccular duct. Next, the utricle with the semicircular canals. With the utricle and the semicircular canals, we have 5 openings. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The anterior and posterior have the common opening. You should remember this. The next, Equidoctor's cochlea. What is that Equidoctor's cochlea? It is a duct that is present behind the cochlea that connects with the subarachnoid space, and it connects the perilymph that is present in the scala tympani with the CSF that is present in the subarachnoid space. Okay, so the most important questions that are asked in the inner ears are: what are the parts of inner ear? What are the semicircular canals? And where are the hair cells or where are the receptor cells are present? Then what is this cochlear duct? This cochlear canal constitutes this cochlear canal have the cochlear duct inside them. Similarly, the semicircular canal have the semicircular duct inside them. Then what is the walls or what are the walls of the cochlear duct? Then what are the different types of hair cells that are present in the cochlear duct? Then what are the connecting links of the endolymph and perilymph? Okay, so this was all about our today's video. If you find this video helpful for you, please do like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much for watching my videos.